Monday at 7, it's Jack for the defense when he's the only witness to a burglary on Three's Company on 56.
The interesting ones are married.
Excuse me. I'm not married.
And we're not interested.
Hi, Jack. Notice anything different about me? You're letting your nails dry.
Get 3 times the fun and triple the laughs with the roommates of Three's Company. Monday at 7 on WLVI TV 56.
Don't come near me.
Thursday, John Amos, Ernest Borgnine, and the cop of the future are set up by a girl on the edge. Then a new puppy brings Chrissy and Jack closer together.
Yeah, there's nothing a girl likes more than a little tickle on the tummy.
Knock it off!
Three's Company after Future Cop and Barney Miller.
Sitcom, all ye faithful, a Christmas podcast special, where for the third time I discuss 25 Christmas sitcom episodes. Please come and listen every day up through Christmas. I'm sure we'll feature Jeannie, the Tanners, and Nell Harper, Chandler, Big Mr. Roper. It will be dynamite. We'll definitely feature a character who says dynamite.
Come and knock on our door.
Come and knock on our door.
We've been waiting for you.
We've been waiting for you.
Where the kisses are hers and his, Three's Company too.
Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome back to Sitcom, all ye faithful. It's day 8, ladies and gentlemen. It's the end of the week. It's Friday. We can finally kind of just get through this day and enjoy a nice weekend filled with Christmas sitcom episodes, as I'll be back tomorrow and every day up and through the 25th of December. But today we're talking about something specific. That's for the future. Today we are focused on I don't know if I'd call it a classic yeah, maybe it's a classic sitcom, I would say. Like, I don't know if it's held in high regard as some other sitcoms, but it is, if it's not at the top echelon, it's at the next level echelon, or echelon's level, I have no idea. But it's up there. And I'm talking, of course, about Three's Company. Now, what makes Three's Company interesting, or what, for me personally, is that this is a show that I was not allowed to watch as a kid. Now, I was born in 76, so this show was already in reruns when I was, 6, 7 years old, but it was still on also. It was like, I think it was just finishing, and then they had the spin-off Three's A Crowd, but, and, I mean, I was supposed to be not watching it. I was watching it here and there. I was watching it at my friend Dave's house, and I definitely felt bad, and I ended up being one of those kids who went home and told my mother, I watched Three's Company, and I shouldn't have. It's a network sitcom. Okay, it wasn't something on cable. I don't even know if we had cable when this was on. It wasn't something where it was, outwardly filthy. And here's the thing: I was such a dumb little kid that I don't even think I would have gotten any of these references. But this was a show that was deep on the double entendre, and I guess it was pretty racy for a network sitcom show. But it would always be like, they're fixing a toilet in the other room, and it's like, oh, stick your pipe in it or all this stuff, and then the landlord would overhear it and be like, what's going on in there? So the basis of the sitcom, if you do not know, and if you are listening to this and do not know what Three's Company is, that is shocking. So it is a show where, oh boy, I'm sorry, I'm watching the Patriots, and the guy just threw a really, really bad interception. But that's for a different podcast, Patriots Unfiltered. Go listen to me cry about that later tonight. Or if you go to fans.experts.com, you can find that. Anyway, I'm not going to stop talking about that. I have that on mute. Let's focus on Three's Company. It's a show where it's three people, three young adults living together, 2 women and a man. And I guess that was somewhat, controversial at the time. So what they did to allow for them to live in this apartment was the guy pretended to be gay. This was at a time where I guess the only way that they would let a single woman live with a single man is if the guy was gay. I don't quite understand it. I don't. This might have been like my first exposure to the gay was a thing. I have no idea. I'm trying to think back all the way back at that time. That it might be Three's Company. Like that might have been the most progressive thing that in my life, and I wasn't allowed to watch it. It had nothing to do with that. It was all the dirty double entendre. But I did watch it. Let's be honest, and I'm sure my parents probably watched it too, and definitely on reruns. Now, what's interesting to me, and I knew that Three's Company was based on a British show. There was a British show, very much the exact same formula: 2 women and a man, and the man has to pretend he's gay, and he's living in a flat. That's the difference. He lives in a flat, and even the landlords were named the Ropers. Even that was the same. There was a woman named Chrissy. The guy was named Robin Tripp instead of Jack Tripper, and Joe instead of Janet. But what I found interesting is that while there was this show, this sitcom, Man of the House, I think it was called, or something like that, Three's Company had 2 spinoffs, The Ropers and Three's a Crowd, where Jack went on and became married and opened up a bistro. The show this was based on had 2 spinoffs. One was The Ropers. It wasn't called The Ropers. It was their first name, Stanley, and I don't know if it was exactly the same names, but it was based on it. And the other one was called Robin's Nest, where he got married, and he opened a bistro. So not only did it follow the formula of the original show, but even the spinoffs followed the exact same formula. 2 spinoffs. That was shocking to me. That was shocking to me today. Shocking. Now, it looks like with the British version, the Ropers stayed on the show and had their own show. I don't know exactly, because this show was on for 6 years, but only had 39 episodes, because British television has 6 episodes to a season, to a series, they called it. But on the American version, the Ropers went and had their own show, and they replaced them with Don Knotts. And once that show got canceled, the producers was like, well, we already have someone playing the landlord. Why are we going to pay 2 people when we can just pay this one dude who does a fine job himself? And boom, there was the end of the Ropers. But I bring that up only to say that, Mr. Furley was hilarious and great. But Stanley Roper is where it's at. And this is Season 2, Episode 14 of Three's Company, so we still have the Ropers. We still have Stanley and Helen Roper. In fact, there's only 5 people in this entire episode: Jack, Chrissy, Janet, Mrs. Roper, and Mr. Roper. It's Christmas morning, and these folks, I guess they have no family in town. Chrissy's dad, she's away from home. This is her first time away from home, and they do get each other gifts. Jack is very handsy in this episode. He wears a little mistletoe in front of his head, and he's grabbing kisses from Janet and Chrissy at all times. They seem to really giggle and like it. I just don't. I wonder if you'd see that in the show today. Probably not. and he's got the mistletoe. You know, he even to the point where Janet breaks the mistletoe off, he puts it right back on, gives her a little smoochie. And they're excited. They get each other gifts. It was kind of funny. He got something for Janet and for Chrissy, and they swapped their gifts. They both got him socks, which was funny. This was what I liked about this, or what I found was interesting, is this episode is only 20 minutes long. And I go watch a show where a 22-minute episode, a 20-minute episode, so much can happen. In this episode, in this show, barely, like, not much happens. They wake up. Jack tries to kiss him. Well, he does kiss them. He gets all excited because they're like, let's throw a party tonight, and they're like, let's invite everyone we know. It was funny. Jack called this girl up. He's like, hey, Hot Lips, I'm lusting after you, and I can't wait to see you. Oh, I'm sorry. Is your daughter there? And he was talking to the mom. But what happens is that nobody can go to this party because they're all going to the Hendersons' party. There's already a party in the area. They're all going, but the three of them weren't invited. So they're like, oh, well, we have nothing to do. Then they see the Ropers. The Ropers were going to be out of town, so they were going to throw this big party. But the Ropers are in town. They stayed because Stanley got in a fight with Mrs. Roper's brother, so they left early and went and came home. And they went down, and I always felt like they lived upstairs. I think Jack, Chrissy, and Janet lived upstairs, and Janet and the Ropers lived downstairs. I have no idea. But I always thought their apartment building was kind of cool, at least what we saw. So they said, why don't we throw a party and have you guys over? You guys have nothing going on. And Chrissy's like, yes, that's great. We'll be there. And Janet and Jack were like, oh, okay, I guess. Not much to do. Ugh. And then they get a phone call, and they're like, oh, we didn't get your invitation. Oh, we'd love to come. Jack and Janet are all excited because now the Hendersons have invited them. But Chrissy's like, no. We said we're going to the Ropers. We're going to the Ropers. So Jack and Janet are upset, but they realize that, Mr. Roper's out by 9:30. So let's just go to this party, hang out with them for a little while, and then we can go to the Hendersons' party. Fantastic. Perfect. So they go to the Ropers' party, and it is as boring as you'd think it would be. Mr. Roper pours them just a little bit of scotch, a little bit, or whatever the drink is. And he's like, this is 7 years old. And Mrs. Roper's like, believe me, I know. I saw him open the bottle. So he's been using the same bottle for 7 years. He tries to play some dumb card tricks. Jack starts playing piano, and he starts singing, and I guess the singing went on for a while. It's just like he's boring. He's making the most boring party, and Mrs. Roper just has some nuts. She wants to play some party games, and Mr. Roper's like, I don't like games. And then he finally comes out with the trumpet, and he starts blaring the trumpet. And they're like, you know what? We need to go. It's past my bedtime. I have to go. And they're like, yeah, we have to go with him. They're like, go to sleep with him? No, at the same time as him. Okay, great. They get out. They're like, oh, my God, we survived. Let's go to the Hendersons' party. Let's not be too loud. They leave, and, Jack, Mr. Roper's like, oh, my God, they're finally gone. He goes, I didn't want to tell you, but the phone rang, and that wasn't your brother who called, because he said your brother called. That wasn't your brother who called. That was the Hendersons. We're invited to the Hendersons. Like, we finally can spend some time with someone interesting, which is exactly the same line that Jack said. We can finally spend some time with someone who's interesting. So it cut. So they're going to the party. They're both going to the party. They try to get away from each other, and they end up going to they're going to the same party. That was really the end of the episode, and it came back with one little stinger at the end, where it was all fine that they were at the party together. Like, nothing bad happened. She's like, oh, you should have seen Stanley's face when he saw you. And he obviously partied too much, drank too much, and he was passed out, half asleep. Bring him into the house, and that's it. That's the end of the episode. Not the big thing that happened is, I remember every time thinking about this show and thinking of Suzanne Summers, the late Suzanne Summers, who just passed recently. that her name is Chrissy Snow, and we find out somewhere along the lines that her name is Christmas Snow. And when do we find out? We find out in this episode, which aired, I don't know if I said December 20th, 1977, 5 days before my second Christmas. So December 20th, 1977. That's when we found out that Chrissy Snow is short for Christmas Snow. And Jack's like, wait, it's not Christine? She's like, no, Christmas Snow. Your name's Christmas Snow? She goes, yes, my dad was a big fan of Bing Crosby. And, I thought that was kind of funny. Jack, not much with cooking. He mentions that, he cooked breakfast. There was the girl Liz that he wanted to date. I don't know if she ever came up in the show. No Larry, no Regal Beagle. The Regal Beagle is the bar nearby. I have a T-shirt that says Regal Beagle. Now, my wife bought me that. Really wasn't I love it because of Three's Company and the bar. She loves it because we're Beagle parents. We've had Beagles for years. And, of course, why wouldn't I wear Regal Beagle for the Beagle? Which my Beagle just got off the couch and probably wants to go outside. But that's really it. I'm trying to think, this. I feel like this is a nice short episode, but the episode of Three's Company called Three's Christmas was only 20 minutes long, and it was just not a ton happened. There were some funny jokes, just clever little jokes at one point. Jack, Chrissy says to Jack, "Oh, Jack, it's Christmas time, and all you want to do is, have fun or something. All you want to do is enjoy yourself." And he just looked at her and pretends to twist her head off, he made some a sound effect that was funny. You could see he had this physical comedy that was funny. And there was another thing when he was giving them their gifts. He took tissue paper and just ripped it up and started tossing it around like snow. I thought that was kind of funny. And we didn't get a Norman Fell looking in the camera. We got one of his sarcastic smiles, but we didn't get him looking in the camera. But here's the thing I found interesting. So my brother just turned 50 years old in this past November. And in this episode, he's older, Mr. Roper is older, but in this episode, I believe Norman Fell is only 54 years old. And if my brother, in 4 years, turns into Norman Fell, what Norman Fell looks like, I can say that he would have definitely had a rough 4 years. Oh, he was 6 years younger than Mrs. Roper? Isn't that like on Gilligan's Island where Mr. Roper was 50 years younger than not Mr. Howell was 20 years younger than Mrs. Howell? She was much older than Jim Backus, I thought. I'm not sure, but something like that. But yeah, Mr. Roper, it's 50 in the 70s is much different than 50 in the 2000s. I'll tell you, in the 2020s. I will tell you that. And I think that's it. I think I've covered everything I'm going to cover. This episode, by the way, is for free. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. It is on Pluto. Again, I don't watch Pluto. I never watch Pluto. I've watched more Pluto already this month than I've watched in probably the last decade. Or you know what? Probably since the last time I did Sitcom All You Faithful, because I think I watched Webster on Pluto. Absolutely. But it feels like Pluto's the only time that I've been watching, Sitcom All You Faithful is the only time I've been watching Pluto. I don't know if you heard, my dog is at the door. She is ready to go out, and I'm ready to take her. So, how's everyone? I hope everyone has a wonderful Friday. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. I'm not saying that hey, have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Have a great Friday. I'll see you tomorrow to talk more sitcoms. But until then, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Threads and Mastodon.social at Geek Mentality. On Facebook, it's Fans Not Experts. On Blue Sky, it's Mikey-C. And everything we do can be found at the website fansnotexperts.com. Now listen, that's it. We're done. I'm going to go watch the rest of this football game and see if the Patriots can blow it. There's a good chance they can. So thank you for listening. And if you want to hear me complain about that, go over to fansonexperts.com and see my Patriots Afterthoughts podcast, which will be coming out, which came out last night. Which came out last night, because this is Friday that I'm talking to you now. See, that's how it works. That's how podcasting works, you see. So that's it, my friends. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for subscribing. And until tomorrow, because we'll be doing it again tomorrow, here is my theme song. This is my podcast. I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe, 'cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time, and I'm kinda handsome. My mom says, please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode.
Fast, not experts. Down at our rendezvous.
Down at our rendezvous.
Three's Company 2.